Hey there, I'm Mike Killen and welcome to Sell Your Service. I want to talk to you about how digital creative professionals can become number one in their field and position themselves as a specialist expert, and you can do this almost overnight. I call this process the awkward shape. Now, this presentation is for graphic designers, web developers, IT consultants, basically anyone who uses a computer or a Mac or a laptop to build something creative for their customers. Anyone who builds creative solutions to their customers' problems. I've got to say, it's not for anyone that doesn't deliver good work. If you don't have a quality product, this system will not work. More on that later, but let's get into it. So the problem is that the digital creative professional is the most in-demand industry in the world right now. It means there's a lot of competition, but it also means there's a lot of work out there. However, there is a need to be great at everything, or perceiving that there's need to be great at everything. For instance, I'm just one guy, and there's a lot of people who I work with who are just one-man bands or micro businesses with 2 or 3 guys. And when they see larger businesses able to offer absolutely everything from email marketing to website design, WordPress design, application development, graphic design, logo design, we then feel as the smaller businesses, right, well, we need to do everything as well, usually because, frankly, we can. We tend to be quite creative people. And a bit of our pride and our ego takes over, and we say, well, if they can do it, so can I. And the problem is that we're too scared to specialize. That is what this presentation is going to conquer, is your fear of specializing and your fear of charging the big bucks. So the myth is that by being broad, you are more likely to attract more customers and find better work by being a one-stop shop. And this just isn't true. We seem to think that if we can offer everything to our customers, particularly when we start out, that they'll say, oh, great, can you do this kind of stuff as well? Can you do this? We go, yeah, we can do absolutely everything. But really, do people know what you do? It's very difficult to nail down what a digital marketing specialist actually is. But if you say that you are the number one in something very specific, you end up finding that you can charge a lot more and people will pay for the privilege to solve that particular problem. Before we get into it, my name's Mike Killen. This is me, before to go to surf. It looks like a bit of a hellhole, but it's actually incredible waves just down the road from me. And I run a company called Devon Digital Design that specializes in creating WordPress brochure sites that generate leads for businesses, particularly shops that don't want an e-commerce or creative and litigious kind of services like accountants and solicitors, that kind of stuff. Anyone who provides a consultancy that's maybe not sexy, they come to me because they want leads. The system that I put in place, I thought more and more, I'm speaking to more and more digital creative professionals who want more leads like the way that I got. So I kind of put together this thing that I called the game plan. And eventually it led to, which is currently going on at the moment, 2 big businesses pitching to me for me to do their website. It was between a department store and a sports clothing brand. And they came to me, they said, Mike, we want your time and we're willing to pay for the privilege. And I said, I can only do one. And they ended up increasing their offers just to outdo it because they knew they had to do something. They knew this was something they had to solve. So how do we do this? We say you need to be number one and be a success. Troy Dean, who's a big hero of mine, he runs a website called WP Elevation, which if you haven't checked it out, you need to go there right now and check out wpelevation.com. And on a Skype call with me, he said, to be a success, you need to become number one at something. You need to be number one. I'm sure he wasn't the first person to say that. And I'm sure he would say that he took it from somebody else, but now I'm taking it from him. And he's absolutely right. But how do you do that? How do you be number one? We often have these noble goals of saying, well, let's set it out in the UK. And we say, right, well, let's be the number one digital marketing company in the UK. But the problem is there's so much competition out there who have got way more resources than us that that's just impossible for us to do. So we say, okay, well, how about we say we're the number one digital marketing company in Devon? It's still too broad. It's just not enough specificity there. My mentor, a guy called Steve Yarnell, who is proper old school, so you won't find him online, unfortunately, he said the key to becoming number one is make it harder for your competition to enter the market. And it sounds really obvious, but it is something that you can do very easily. And once you've nailed down how to make it harder for your competition to enter the market, you find people tend not to bother competing with you. So you instantly become number one overnight. Once you become number one, you can say to people you are, and because your problem solving is so specific, it becomes very targeted, which means that even less competition can enter the market. And it goes round and round and round like this until you're the only guy that can do this particular thing. So we tend to say, okay, well, this is how we see businesses. We see our business as a blob, and the blob above is people. And inside that, maybe we'll find some customers. And we think, well, let's have some products, and hopefully that customer blob will overlap with the product blob. And that's where we find profit. That's the basic principle behind it. Everything inside that is what we would call profit. Everything above that is what we would call missed opportunities. And everything below is basically a cost, like overheads. The problem with anything above is that it leaves room for our competition to enter and to eat it up. So we say, okay, let's productize our services. We say we've got these 4 products, and maybe some of them cost a little bit more, and maybe some of them take a bit more time. And we find that we want to match our particular customer's problem with our products, okay? So we say that sounds really, really great. However, it still means that our competition can come in because we're not being specific enough. Even though we're solving one type of problem, we're not differentiating ourselves from the market. Where's our USP, really? The problem is that your competition, and this tends to happen with productized services, like we do SEO or we do logos. Your competition could say, well, we'll do it for less, or we'll do it for less time. And that looks appealing to the customer because that's all you're really showing, is you're giving the product and saying, this is how we measure the quality of it, by cost and time. How can we change this? How can we change this attitude? If we take the phrase cornering the market or carving a niche, which I know is horribly overused, and really, really apply it to our business, what tends to happen is we take a line like this, and everything beneath the line is the market. This is where we find our customers. This is where we find our profit. This is where we find our revenue. And we say, okay, well, I'm going to take everything from web design. So I think I'm specializing. I'll do web design for SMEs, small business, which small to medium enterprises, and everything in between that will do. Okay, so you carve yourself a nice little corner, and you think that any customers who fit that profile are going to fit in, and you're absolutely right, they will. This is where we make profit with something like this, something quite broad. However, our competition, who is much, much larger than us and maybe more experienced, and maybe they've got more resources, can fit in and eat into our market share. We're making it easier for our competition to get in there because we're doing the work for them. They might have more resources, more staff, maybe they use it as a loss leader. They are basically taking away our market share. So how do we do this? How do we become number one? This is a trick that I don't know why no one else does this, but you make up your number one title. It sounds crazy, but stick with me here for a bit. What we're going to do is take 4 or 5 key identifying customer factors, and this blows people's mind when I tell them in presentations. Let's take things like industry, the age of the business, the budget, the actual solution that they want, maybe their skill level and attitude. And we're going to say, right, well, I want the particular industry to be, I don't know, health and beauty products. By the way, you do not have to focus on an industry to consider yourself as a niche marketer, to really go into a niche. Industry is a good place to start, though. And remember, you can kind of play around with this. You don't have to stick with something, play around with it. The problem is maybe they are relaunching their brand. They're doing a brand relaunch, so it's a second website, and they really want to get out there because their business is a little bit old and they need to kind of, vamp it up a little bit. Maybe their skill level is very, very low. They are not digitally orientated, but their attitude is they are fully going for it. Maybe they've got a new marketing manager or someone else has taken over the business. And what we're able to do is put together those 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 or whatever identifying customer factors. And you then get to say, okay, I am the UK's number one, and then make it up. So we could go for, I don't know, logo and header graphic designer for health and beauty businesses looking to launch a new website. I call myself a logo launcher, and I work with small businesses who have had a website and graphics in the past who are about to launch a new website. They need a logo that's quickly digestible and easy to share and help launch their new brand. That in itself explains everything about your business. You work for a specific industry, you solve a very specific problem, a problem that exists, I might add. A lot of people will have their second website as their main one. And you go, well, that's what I specialize in. I literally do nothing else than work with health and beauty guys to launch their second website, to rebrand their website and their graphic designs. And I call myself a logo launcher. I am the #1 health and beauty logo launcher in the UK. I don't know anyone who is a health and beauty logo launcher in the UK. So you are #1. So you're instantly that specialist. The statement, by the way, comes from a really simple formula called an XYZ statement, or a value statement. And it's what I work with X type of customer, so those are your customer factors that we've got in here, who have got Y type of problem, again going back to the customer factors. When they work with me, they achieve Z. Here's the value that I'm bringing to their business. They need a logo that's quickly digestible and easy to share to help them launch their new brand. That's what they achieve, right? And what we've done is we've still got the line and we've still got the market underneath it. And this is still where our profit is, still where our customers are. However, rather than taking between web design and SME, we're going, no, let's change those two factors and spread them out. So we've got 4 or 5 factors. And we have 4 or 5 different unique points that no other business has, such as we only work with people with a good attitude, particular industry, particular budget, particular problem. And what we do is we create the awkward shape. Now this shape becomes very, very appealing to customers, because when they see that they can fit in there perfectly, they will pay for that privilege. However, your competition can't get in there. Your competition is too bloated, they're too big, they're too broad. They don't have the same finesse as you. They don't have the same specificity that you do. Let's take an example. This, for example, is a 1952 F340. It's a Ferrari. I'm sure if that's wrong, someone will tell me. But what would happen if I had this? Let's say I bought it, it's in bad shape, and I want to restore it. I'm probably not going to be using it, but it is going to go into a showroom of mine. How about if I go up to a regular garage and they would say, yeah, that's fine, we can have a look at it, we can tinker it. They might even say, we just can't do that. You can go, okay, well, let's go to a Ferrari garage. And they say, yeah, that's fine, let's see if we can get someone to kind of play around with it. But what if I then had someone come to me and say, Mike, I specialize in pre-1960 Ferrari sport cars. I specialize in restoring them to showroom quality, and yeah, you can kind of pooter about them in a little bit. I mean, that is matching my problem perfectly, and I will happily pay for the privilege. He then gets known as just the guy who just does that, and he's better than anybody else, okay? So now that you're #1, we need to think of the top 5 problems that your customers face. We need to tailor all of your messaging to that customer, and you need to tell people what you do. And you can do that way easier, because when you tell people what you're #1 at, that is your elevator pitch, that is your value statement, that is your quick pitch. For example, I consider myself the #1 marketing coach for digital creative professionals in the UK who want to get more leads out of their WordPress site. So I focus specifically on WordPress websites. I focus specifically on digital creative professionals like you. I'm a marketing coach, and I just focus on getting more leads out of their WordPress site. For example, I know a guy who is the #1 website launch technician, is what he calls himself, who will help create and publish big businesses' first blog posts to get them more customers. Everyone talks about blogging, big businesses have got the resources, but no one really knows how to do it. So he says, well, okay, when we launch your next website, I will show you how you can create more blog posts and better blog posts that get more leads for your business. And it just sounds so much more appealing. You need to be specific. Be #1, create that #1 title. So what are the next steps? Well, next up, we've got the game plan from Sell Your Service. Go check it out. It's a 6-week program that's super, super easy. You can go at your own pace if you need to, that will tell you all of these things and more how to do it. We need to nail down your customer profile, and you need to start targeting them. Play around with the industry factors that we had beforehand. Play around with taking 2 or 3 things that you want to focus on and be good at. Learn out who your customers idolize. I don't know why people aren't doing this. How to find out who your customers are following and who they idolize is this huge step that no one else seems to be doing. No one else seems to be taking advantage of. Also, we can teach you how to create a 15-minute marketing strategy. This is crazy. Everyone goes on that marketing strategy like 20 pages long. It's just not true. We'll show you how to create a 15-minute marketing strategy that you can then share with your customers as well. This is the great thing. And lastly, on that note, we've got send out templates and resources to your customers. We can provide you with templates and resources for your customers that you can send out to begin to position yourself as this expert, position yourself as a trusted source of information. Go to sellyourservice.co.uk/game plan. Sellyourservice.co.uk/game plan. Learn how to do all these, get the game plan from us, and learn how to sell your digital creative service. I've been Mike Killen, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how you can sell your service.